on to September's sketchbook, the 9th installment this year. It's crazy to be thinking I've been doing it this long, and I can definitely see the improvement in my art, as well as these sketches. September was a little different because I chose two of similar subjects to do one day, 15-minute sketch each on one of them, and then a half hour for a marker sketch on whichever one I chose to do of those two. I went into a lot of them thinking I was going to know which one I was going to do for the marker sketch, but at the end I ended up choosing the other one half the time. So we'll discuss that later on, but let's get right into it. Starting off, first day, a couple old comic book girl 19, when she still had her pink hair. She did this Venom's portrait for her calendar a few years back, and then just a shot of her on her couch. I really went into this thinking I was going to do Venom, but when push came to shove, I decided to do the portrait just because I saw myself getting better at doing those. For the second day, we had a bunch of different portraits of the lovely Gillian Anderson. Reworked this a couple times. This face is probably the best face I had of Gillian. These portraits kind of, I don't know, just really looked really wonky to me. Tried a couple different things, but this one's definitely her. Not so much with the marker sketch, but you can't pick them always. Third day, car studies. You have my old Firebird working on the wheels, kind of defining lines and whatnot. Figuring out, I think I got the rear end just a little bit big, so I think I decided to do this Rat Rod Camaro. I really like how that turned out with the marker sketch. Oh, fourth day. This one was a rough one for sure. I got these sketches down well enough. I really liked how they were going. They're very intricate. For some reason, I just fell in love with the stars in the background of this one. When I went to go put the lines down on the marker sketch, they just didn't work. And I started falling down the steps, and pretty soon I just couldn't catch myself, and it just became a muddied mess. And I really, really hated this day's marker sketch. That's when I realized I have to spend some more time with ink. I wasn't as confident as I figured I was. For the ending of Blood Drive, figured I'd do a couple more sketches. The first one is Slink. The other one's Grace. Kind of got the general proportions right with that. Didn't really like the face, so I went down here and redid it. Really liked the second time I did that, but ultimately decided to go with Slink because it's such a great image for the whole season. If you haven't seen Blood Drive, I highly suggest catching up on it. Then you have this one. You have Berserk, Casca, and Guts. With this simple saying, I didn't figure I was going to do that page. I actually thought I was going to do Kenpachi and Yoichiro. But when I got the sketch done, it wasn't turning out quite how I had figured it was. So I decided to put some lines down on this one, and I ultimately chose that. I think that was when I decided I wasn't getting the hair right for people, and that's something I really need to focus on. So when you see October's sketchbook, you'll see me at least really working on trying to define some hair definitions, but ended up hating the ink sketch and realized I have to spend more time with ink. For this one, did a couple different brides. This pinup one was the one that I chose. I really like this Frankie in Bride. There's filigree in the background. Just kind of want to... Filigree's always eluded me because for some reason my brain just won't make sense of it. I would try, and I'm going to keep trying until it doesn't finally make sense. I really like how that sketch turned out. I was going to pick that one, but for some reason I just went with the pinup, probably for ease, and had been spending a lot of time and like I hated the day before. This hand sketch is a bit of an anomaly. I really like how that turned out. I like it better than how it turned out in the marker sketch. You have this little bit tip of the hand, and I really like how they abstract, but I just couldn't get the subtlety of it with this little sketch. Just ended up hating that and went with that, and I like how it turned out, but there are things that I would definitely change about it. Then you have this sketch I redid from the past. When I started doing sketches, this Book of Life sketch was one I did 2 years ago, and you can see the definite change. I'll put the old marker sketch along with the new one so you can see the difference. Couple ladies with sheer clothing. I liked how you could see the outlines of the body in their clothing. I kind of wanted to give that same try at doing that. I ultimately picked this one. Her torso is way too tall. I think if it would be a lot shorter, I would like it a lot more, but I really love this sketch, but the marker sketch kind of really fell apart because it just got too long. I figured I was going to do the pin holding this median together. I really like that statement or design look. Got to put it together, and then came down here and did the sketch and realized that I really wanted to do this. This is an old kind of concept that I was playing around with, where like thoughts are choking you. I made pins of it and whatnot from Inktober, funny enough, a few years back. Then you have this kind of monster girl design. You have this zombie, I don't know, kind of bride figure. I believe it's done by Koi Drake. And then down here you have this little monster girl that's Cerberus, whatever. I thought I was going to do this whole thing, but really fell in love with that kind of simple design and really wanted to work at trying to make that with the limited colors I had too. So that was a much more difficult than I thought it was. You have this reference shot of myself back in issue 3. This is what I used to help make that cover. It was basically me holding my Blanca action figure. Little portions are off a little bit, but I really like how that turned out. I think that's the self-portrait for this month. And then ultimately down here with the Queens of the Stone Age cover for their Like Clockwork design. I like this sketch a lot better than the marker sketch. Kind of just stretched things out way too far with the marker sketch, and it just ended poorly. And then we're done with that sketchbook. Alright, moving forward. These couple sketches of Elvira. Put this one design, kind of outlined where her dress was, and then fell in love with this design because I really thought I was going to do this one, but as I was doing this, like, I got taken back by how much I was falling for that one, and ultimately rushed this one and finished up that other one for the marker sketch. Tank Girl, such a lovely design. You have this top, a couple designs by Shane Glines. He does a lot of the retro cartoon design. I think I'm gonna do a few more of his designs for October, so keep your eye out for that. It's this simple looking line design that is actually a lot more intricate than you imagine it would be. And then ultimately going with Sayacho design for his tank girl. Really like how that came together. Really wanted to put it on markers, and when it did, I really ended up liking it. Then we had another one of Comic Book Girl 19. She was doing press for some movie, and J.K. Simmons. This face of J.K. Simmons ultimately started looking really bad, and I really hated it, and finally worked on it, and it finally got to a point where I enjoyed it fine enough, but then came down and did this Franzetta study, and like knew I wanted to do the Franzetta piece. Ultimately, after I finished it up, compared it to the original, and hated life once again because I had made her face too big on the marker study, and it just, everything fell apart at that point. You have a couple of different anime designs. You have Ichigo when he goes full out devil mode, and then you have Kazuma from Skyrid. I figured I was going to do that, but I really enjoyed that skull design from that devil anime, whatever. You have this Alice model laying on this couch. Had a lot of problems with the legs. At that point, I knew that wasn't going to be the one I was going to try, so came down here and did this. I really do like the marker study because you have this design that peeks out of the actual picture. I really like how that came out. Going back to Bleach, you have this page panel of Kenpachi and Yachiro discussing stuff, and then Kenpachi and Yachiro fighting with each other. Ended up picking that one just because the other one seemed a little too simple. For this one, I guess this could be considered the portrait study for the month. You have this picture of me and my brother out on Lake Michigan, I think it was. The start of 2016. And then we were working on his truck. And ultimately ended up using this for his birthday. And then did that one for the marker sketch for that day. So going forward, I combined these two pieces. This is from Hellsing Ultimates number 4, I believe. Yeah, it's 4. Alucard's actually surfing a Blackbird jet. And then through his favorite quote of his in the background to tie the marker sketch together. Speaking of Hellsing, I actually met this friend via our love for Hellsing. She also posted on her timeline on Facebook that she wanted people to try drawing her, and I was like, well, since I met her via our love for Hellsing in Berserk, obviously you can see the brand of sacrifice on her chest, thought it would be a nice try. Figured I was going to do this one, but then when I was doing that sketch, realized how nuanced it was and really wanted to do it that way. I think if I made her nose a little bit bigger, maybe proportion the face out a little bit better, it would be really awesome, but you know, I didn't want to spend all day on it. So you have a couple shots from the Captain America Civil War movie, basically when Iron Man is fighting Cap and Winter Soldier. I really like this. I love this little sketch of the design and whatnot. Tuning the sketch of him blasting. Ultimately picked that one. Like how it turned out, but it could be better. You have a couple of my friends, Toby and Angel, and then you have this scene from the anime Blade of the Immortal. I just couldn't get that right, and at that point it was chosen for me that I was going to be doing that for the marker sketch. Gamera. Sophie Campbell's designs for this. I believe she's doing, was doing, Gem and Turtles. So she has this QC design. It's somewhat tricky. It looks simple, but those simple lines can always turn out to be some of the hardest. I really love this cutesy Gamera design that she does, so just had to do it for the day. Go back to Mankini Terror. I think I've done plenty of sketches of her in her lingerie, showing off her tats and whatnot. That when I did this sketch, I really fell in love with it, and just this lovely lady that I've been sketching a few times a month this year, and I love this design, and I believe this was the first time I was using my chameleon markers, and they just don't put out the color I want them to, so it's hard to distinguish. The colors are just too soft for my liking, but I really like this sketch. I'm alright with a marker sketch, but has something to be desired. You have my friend here and her girlfriend. I did this one back in February. You can really see the difference. 6 months will do. It doesn't look all that different, but it looks different enough to know that I'm making progress, and that's the most important thing. A couple Daredevil shots from season 2. I figured I was going to do the chain because I wanted to practice doing chains. Ultimately, I just couldn't get his face to line up how I want, so I actually picked up the smirk and decided to go that way with it. I don't think his head is big enough. Again, I think this is where his hair proportions come in, and I just can't make that work, so gotta hammer those details out and make it work. A few more left. Next, a couple friends off Instagram, Fleshy and Ellie. I figured I was going to do this. I really just love the contours and the design of the whole image. But when I sketched it out, it just seemed like it was too easy. So ultimately I went with Fleshy and started with the design, kind of redid her face to a point where I liked it, and then kind of refined that for the sketches. Again, I think I used chameleon markers and then swapped over to my Prismacolors. I figured I was going to do the Fooly Cooly shot for the end of the month, but then came down here, did Marilyn Monroe. That was the first time I liked Marilyn Monroe. Really messed up this face. For some reason I can't get Kyla's face the first time, but I think I really nailed it with the marker sketch, so that is going to do it for the month of September. October, we're going to be doing inks. If you're checking Patreon, you already know the stories behind these, but I am doing pencil sketches below just to get lines sorted out, figured out before I hit them with the ink. I'm basically just using my Pilot pen. So yeah, I'm loving seeing the little adjustments I make from pencil to pen. Also doing the shading, but I'll get into that next month. Thanks for being a Patreon if you're seeing this early, or thanks for just watching this video on YouTube, because a lot of the work has gone into this year, and I'm grateful for anybody that has taken the time to even care and watch these, so thank you for that.